embracing like the greatness that you really could become.
Hi, everyone. It's Kara Goldin from The Kara Goldin Show, and I'm super, super excited to have our next guest here, who is not only an incredible founder and CEO, but also an author of the brand new, excellent book called Jump, which we'll get to talk a little bit more about that. But her name is Kim Perell, and Kim is an award-winning entrepreneur, as I mentioned, tech CEO, angel investor, and a best-selling author of the newly published book, Jump. She is a serial entrepreneur, two-time best-selling author, actually, and she has really started her journey as an entrepreneur after being in some kind of interesting situations in different companies. She sold her last company for north of 200 million, which is unbelievable. So great. And is such a huge believer in paying it forward. She's dedicated to really helping aspiring entrepreneurs figure out how to make it and get successful. So I love that as a mission. And as I mentioned, her latest book, Jump, sort of the subtitle is Dare to Do What Scares You. Do I have that right, Kim?
Yes.
Awesome. And it was a Wall Street Journal bestseller, and we'll focus on her impressive journey. I'm going to stop talking now so we can dive in with Kim, but welcome.
Oh, thanks so much, Kara. I'm so happy to be here.
Super, super excited. So let's go back to the start. So your parents were entrepreneurs, I heard. What impact did that have on you wanting to be an entrepreneur?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Growing up, it was like a roller coaster. And so I decided I do not want to be an entrepreneur. I was like, I do not want this it was so uncertain. And, we never knew how we were going to make ends meet. And it was just unpredictable and truly, it was just scary and emotional. And I was like, I got to get a real job. Like, why don't they get a real job? I don't want to be part of this. So it was I guess it was like, for me, learning what I didn't want to do. And sometimes that's more important than what you do want to do. So I decided, for me, just to get a real job. I was like, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get a degree. I'm going to get a real job. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to look back at the uncertainty that, I grew up with.
It's so funny. I think being an entrepreneur, too, was it had a different connotation to it, probably when you were growing up. I know, my story, my dad I talk about him as a frustrated entrepreneur inside of a large company. He was innovating products. He created a product called Healthy Choice inside of a big food company, but he just didn't really have the courage. But I also think there were very few entrepreneurs who had kind of made it. Like Ron Popeil was like a big entrepreneur. But other than that, I mean, it was just kind of like, those are the crazy people. It wasn't really how it is today.
Those were the
right?
crazy people. That was
right?
my dad and my mom. I'm like, they're crazy. Can you be normal? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So to your point, it wasn't as, I think now entrepreneurs, looked at as, like, people aspire to be entrepreneurs, and I get that. But back then, I do not think. I was like, can you be a dentist or something?
Yeah, something normal, right? No, that's so funny. So fast forward to after your college years, you ended up getting your dream job at XDrive. So tell me a little bit about that role.
It was amazing. So when I graduated, it was right at the height of the .com, and I went to work for an internet startup. I was one of the first 7. We raised our first $1 million, and then we went on to raise 120 million, and we grew it was like being on a rocket ship. It was amazing. It was like an incredible time. I felt like I had security of like this great venture-backed company, and I was going to be a millionaire, an internet millionaire, and all my dreams are going to come true, and I was going to climb the corporate ladder and, just become this corporate executive, and I had these big dreams. And unfortunately, honestly, like my dream became like my nightmare, because the company, less than 2 years into it, we spent all of the money. We had no viable revenue stream. Like, we had we had a lot of 300, maybe 400 people at the time. We'd raised a lot of money and we were out of cash. And it was like in an instant, someone hit delete on like my life, like my identity, because my identity was just, I'd called everyone I knew. I'm like, hey, I'm going to join, I've got this internet company. It's amazing. We can all be there together, all my friends. And then, it's like we hit the wall and the company went bankrupt. And I honestly had to lay off all of my friends that I'd hired to come work with me. And I just felt like such a failure, like this. I just had these big hopes and it just like in an instant, everything crashed. And I didn't know what I was going to do, to be honest. Like I just went home, put the covers over my head and you
said, oh my God. So what did you do?
I stayed there for a while and then you hit rock bottom. You're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I was embarrassed. People didn't want to talk to me. They felt like I ruined their life. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, I could do one of two things, right? It's like you can just use those moments to define you, or you can use that moment as a catalyst to decide what you really want. And like at that point, I wanted freedom and I wanted to control my own destiny. And I felt so you realize that there is no security, no matter if you're at a real job or quote unquote, or if you're an entrepreneur. So, I thought I would, I'd learned a lot of I had great experience and I was like, I did have the experience growing up of an entrepreneur. So I was like, I'm going to take matters into my own hands and make the jump into entrepreneurship. And so I decided I was going to, but no one would give me any money. So that didn't work out really well for me. I'm like, I'm going to do it.
So what did you do then after XDrive?
So I tried to raise some money, which didn't go well because my track record of bankruptcy wasn't good. And the internet was full of internet companies that all gone bust. So no one actually wanted to invest in the internet anymore. And so I called my grandma and I was like, Grandma, I need a loan. And she made a bet on me. She didn't even know what the internet was. It's like she had an AOL account. She's like, I don't know what we're investing in, but she's like, I believe in you. I don't have a clue what you're talking about, but I'll make a bet on you because, that is one of those things that just changes your life. And she made a bet on me and she gave me a $10,000 loan to start my own company. And I did it from my kitchen table for, years and years and maxed all my credit cards.
What was the name of that company?
Frontline Direct. So it was really, internet advertising, like in the beginning, before Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat and TikTok. So it was really like the basics of internet advertising. And I mean, at that point, nobody believed it was going to be as big as it is.
That's wild. And so You sold that company.
So I sold that company. Honestly, I didn't take any investment because I just didn't want to let anyone down again. I mean, it's like one of those things where you just are so scarred from having told everyone you're going to do something that doesn't work out. So I self-funded it and bootstrapped it and just really went back to business basics, which is don't spend more than you have, make every dollar count, right? Like the real basics of business, like you're sitting at your kitchen, you don't have anything, it's really limiting, but it makes you really resilient and you can find opportunities where others might not because you have to. And so I ended up growing that company. So we're profitable and we really focus on profitability. We focus on growth. We focus on only, growing when we knew we could support it. Because I really, I just don't want to be in that situation ever again.
And then you ended up starting another one after that.
So I sold that company 5 years later. And it goes back to, it's really interesting because someone's like, I never intended to sell. I really was just I started a company so I could have my own freedom. And then it got so big, then you get scared. You're like, I don't know if I can have all these, it's a lot of responsibility. And, I found myself getting into another position of, I don't know if I can do this alone. So I really wanted to find a partner that would help me grow. So I sold into a European advertising network in 2008. And then I took over as CEO. And then we sold again to Singapore Telecom in 2014. So a little bit over 5 years after that. And so it's similar, it was a journey from zero at my kitchen table all the way to, when I eventually left, we're at $1 billion annually.
Wow. That's incredible. What are like the things that you've incubated companies and you've sold them? What do you think is the key thing? So you talked about in your category, profitability. Like what else do you think is super, super key? Like how did you meet these people along the way and network? Did you actually hire bankers to sort of help you connect, or did you just use your network?
Yes. My sale process, because I never intended to sell, I always say to individuals, like, be 70% ready. So when I sold, I wasn't ready to sell my company. Like I was 70% ready. I had a good company. That didn't mean it was packaged ready to go to market, but it was 70% ready because I knew there was an opportunity. So I hired a banker and we ran a process. We got 7 offers because the business was a great company. It was built on business banking. It was profitable. It was growing. It was a great business. And so going through that sale process, KPMG represented us, and it was an amazing opportunity because I met so many individuals along the way that then became business partners after we sold. Mm-hmm. You never know who you're going to meet, right? And that's like the most amazing thing is you meet people and then they exponentially increase like opportunities. So looking at like every relationship as like a long-term relationship as opposed to like a transactional short term.
I love that. I love that concept. So it's a good segue into your new book, Jump, which is fabulous. So congratulations. Very, very exciting. So talk to us about how do you define the jump and the core fundamentals behind that?
For me and from what I've seen, and I, work with thousands of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, it's from being in your comfort zone and like moving out of it to your growth zone. And it's scary because it's so nice to be in your comfort zone. It feels good. It's easy. You know what's going to happen. You know what to expect. But the growth zones where where the magic happens, it truly is. And that's where you feel confident. You feel like you feel scared and you're not sure what you're going, there's all these emotions to it. But that's where you move into embracing like the greatness that you really could become. And I think that's what the book is providing, that framework. So, you look at people that want to make a jump. There's never been more people that are resigning from their current jobs. People want to make change, and what better time in a world of uncertainty to make that change?
I think your book is going to help so many people too. So the 3 reasons that people are jumping today, what do you hear the most?
Well, one is, I call it the survival jump. So it's kind of like the jump I had. I got fired, my company went bankrupt, and I had no choice. It was like an emergency exit. I had to jump. Like the place is burning down. You have no choice. You better figure out what you're going to do next. So I think many people likely may find themselves there now. And so there's the survival jump. There's an opportunity jump, which is I'm happy, I'm content, but I have these I know it could be better than this. I have an idea. I have a thought. I have a business I want to create. So it's an opportunity for you to go from where you are today to where you want to be. And then there's the stagnant jumper, which is I am bored. Like so many people I talk to, I'm stuck. I'm uninspired. I'm unmotivated. I'm unfulfilled. But at least I know where I am. And it's like that's the worst place to be because you just sit there. You could sit there for 20 years. And if you did sit there for 20 years and you're still here and you're listening to me now, you should leave. Like it's never too late to make the jump. So it's really about really embracing where you are. It's uncomfortable. It's unknown, but it will be better than if you stay, like what's worse, waking up 1 year and being at the same place that you are right now. That is worse.
Definitely. When you're sitting here saying, and then you feel like you haven't done anything. Right? Because you don't know exactly when you started thinking about it, but you thought, I know I've been thinking about this for a while. And I loved your 70% rule too. So you touched on it a little earlier,
right?
Yeah. But so talk a little bit about the 70% for people listening right now and are thinking, I'm nervous about making a jump. Maybe I should just hang out here, get through the summer, get through the holidays, whatever people say. But when
it's crazy.
When is
and I
it?
think there's a concept, and I talk about like the when them trap, which is like when the economy gets better, then I will get a new job, or when I lose 5 pounds, then I'll go on a date, or whatever it is, like whether personally or professionally, or like when I do this project, then I'll ask for a raise. Like, you can keep making these excuses, but they're excuses. And so to overcome that trap and think about things that you're saying to yourself. I mean, I say it all the time. When, like I build this company, then I can have a family. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can do it all, but you have to change your mindset and really acknowledge that you'll never be 100% ready. Like, you just won't. For anything, I have 4 kids. I'm still not ready. Somebody help.
I know.
So it's like, just do it anyway and you'll figure it out. Like, know and trust in your own abilities that you will figure out how to do, that last 30%. So I'm not saying do it blindly and just leave your job with no plan, because I really believe in a plan. But I am saying if you have 70%, you're 70% of the way there, that's enough.
I often share with people that if you go and figure out kind of the perfect end, you'll never get past the beginning, right? I mean, it's just, that's the thing that is, as my husband always talks about me as being okay with risk. For him, he would define that as being okay with living with 1 foot off a cliff, as he says, which is never, like, for him, that's a very scary place to be. But I think that you learn over time, the more times you do that and you survive, things turned out really great, then with practice, it becomes much easier to go do it. And obviously, you're a great example of that. I mean, you probably, as you said, you've been through so many different challenges along the way. I think going through a company that went under, getting fired, whatever it is that has happened to you or both of us. I mean, I think it's really, you get to a place where, you just have to pick yourself back up again and just keep going and getting over those roadblocks. So I think that Jump really spoke to me and really spoke to, I think, so many people I know who are just not really satisfied either with what they're doing. So, I mean, it's funny. My kids are a little bit older than you, and they keep saying to me, Mom, I hope that we're not going to be living in a digital world when I get out to work, because I really want people. I want to go to a job. I want to meet people. That's going to be my community. If I'm not in school, where am I going to find my community? And I mean, it's such an interesting thing where I think the Gen Z generation will start to really think about that. And what I've said to them is, and plus other generations too, but what I've said to them is, I think it's definitely going to be, a place where it'll work for some people and it won't work for others. And, and you have to be able to figure out when to jump. When something is just not quite right, I think that you figure out, okay, you know what? It had good aspects. It had not great aspects. I've learned as much as I can learn from these people that I'm working with, and maybe it's time for me to go. So it really, really spoke to me.
I'm so glad. Yeah. If you're not happy, it's time to make a change. Right. And it's scary. We both know, because it's so scary, but do it anyway. Right. And it's how do we get the tools to do it? Because I think that's a challenge. It's okay, I'm ready, but I'm too scared to actually make the leap. It's I go to the cliff and then.
And you just mentioned that you moved to Miami and from California. And I think these rules apply to life as well, right? That you're talking about. It's not just about jobs. It's also about, okay, I've got to make a change. And so I really heard your book kind of fitting into that world as well.
It is. Yeah. Personally, right? I think it could be so, and I talk a lot about dream big, start small. So to your point, getting the courage to do micro jumps. So whether that be try at a new restaurant, maybe take a different way home from, wherever you're school or work, or just small things that push you outside the normal routine, starts building your confidence that, okay, I can do this. And actually it was kind of fun. I mean, you might not have wanted to jump. I moved from San Diego to Miami with 4 kids during a pandemic. That's pretty aggressive, but I spent my whole life jumping, right? So for me, it feels natural. Obviously, there's a ton of unknown, but because I've taken so many micro jumps, you build up. It's a muscle. So you got to start working on it every day. And I talk about one of the ways to do that is like practice getting rejected. I get rejected all the time. So if you're not getting rejected, you're definitely not trying hard enough. So make it a point, like play a game on yourself, which is I'm going to ask for a discount at like the local Starbucks. I'm going to ask them on a date. I'm going to ask a mentor to have coffee. Like little things, even though it hurts, it builds your internal muscles that acknowledge that you can do it, you can get rejected, and you can move forward anyway.
I think that's such great advice. So Kim, tell me a story about building one of your companies where you faced a big challenge or failure and where you had to jump, or, could also be about loss as well. But since jump is kind of your thing, I thought that definitely would be a great topic. So, and I'd love to hear what you learned from the experience.
Oh my goodness. Well, I've had so many. It's like, so picking one of where I've learned, it's interesting looking back. I think just knowing you're not living your maximum potential, because I just spent 20 years. I mean, like just recently spent 20 years as a tech CEO, building companies, starting them, scaling them, selling them. And I took a massive jump to leave what was known and comfortable, like as, I reported into one of the largest telecommunications in the world. And I went back to my kitchen table. Like, that's scary because I'm now defined as, having done something. And now I'm back literally at my kitchen. And it's such a, even you're like, okay, did I really just do that? But something internally, and this is why I wrote the book. If something's telling you you need to change, you're unfulfilled, you're not happy, like it's time to make the change. It doesn't matter how good like your life may appear, how good your job may be, like it could be better, and you won't know until you try. And even if that doesn't work out, there's like a path leads to a path. So something else will happen along that path that you can't even predict unless you take that first step. So trying to really making these big changes is so scary. And, when I've gone back, I've gone a full circle. So starting again, it's scary, during a pandemic where there's huge challenges, within working obviously remotely, and just it's a different time to build a business. But I also believe the best businesses are built in the hardest times. So for anyone out there that's looking to become an entrepreneur, who's looking to jump, who's looking to change jobs, change career, start a business, like now, I feel that it's never been a better time because the universe now, it's used to change. Everything's changing. So you might as well just jump in.
Absolutely. What do you think was the big lesson that you learned from kind of going back to your kitchen table? And are there things that you would do differently in building your next company that maybe you've seen on your journey of building all these companies? Is there some sort of core thing that you're, going forward, you're not going to raise money, you're not going to do this, you've learned so much?
Originally, after my first experience becoming bankrupt, I didn't want to hire anyone because I obviously didn't want to fire anyone because that was really an emotional and scarring time. But knowing like having the right team, like complementary, and that could be personal or professional, that could be your husband, that could be your friends, that could be having that team around you to build, that's
so
what makes
cute.
it. Yeah, it's just like, that's everything. It's like the foundation. When everything goes right or wrong, having that core team makes it so, I just cherish that. So for me, it's about just going back to being, because we grew to 1,000 people. I didn't know everyone, the company grew. And so I like actually having like a small team. So I guess what I learned is I like building. I like having personal relationships with people. And I like to know people. I want to know their life. I want to know why they're doing it. I want them to actually do it, not just because it's a job, but they really believe. And so that's been a learning for me, is going back, but now having the courage to just compliment myself with other people, knowing it will work out. I guess, it took me a while before. When I first started, I was like, I'm not going to hire anyone. I'm just going to do everything myself. And my husband's like, you can't do it alone. Like no one is successful alone. So acknowledging that up front and finding complementary team members is so key to success.
I totally agree. And I think also understanding what you like doing. right? So I think that I'm a builder as well. I love the early stages and I'm good at multiple stages, but I love the early stage. And there are some people that are like, no, let me get involved in a company when it's 10 million to 25 million or 100 million plus or whatever it is, or only when they're public. I mean, I think that that is so defining, especially if you've been either supporting entrepreneurs and working inside of startups, or you've never worked in one. I mean, everyone should get that experience to really understand the size and sort of what they really, really love doing. So such an incredible journey, Kim, and there's so many lessons here. And like I said, the book is excellent. Everybody definitely pick up a copy. Where do people find out more about you? And also, where's the best place to grab a copy of Jump?
Excellent. It's amazing. So you can go, please visit my site at kimperell.com or go to jumpwithkim.com to get your copy of the book, and follow me on any social media, Kim Perell. And if you're ready to jump with me. We can do this together. It's time to go. Your time is now. I am here to support you. And I just think, if you're listening to me right now and you're thinking, I can do it, you can do it.
I love it. So great. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening today. We're here every Monday and Wednesday with amazing entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Kim obviously is one of them. It's so great to hear all of these stories of how people have overcome challenges, doubts along the way. And certainly Kim is a great example of this. So please make sure to pick up a copy of Kim's book. If you haven't picked up a copy of my book as well, definitely do that. It's called Undaunted. Hopefully you'll get a chance to read it. And hopefully you'll also still grab a case of Hint. If you haven't tried it, you should definitely try it too. And thank you so much for joining us, Kim, and listening, everyone, and have a great rest of the week.